we are excited to kick off these 30 days to building a marriage that you love. And we decided to start with a great tool for the first one, which is
communication.
Something
I love doing.
Okay. What comes to mind when you think about healthy communication in a marriage?
Well, I always think about how many words that men use throughout the course of the day, and then to be able to come home and use even more of those words at home. I just think men use so many more words than women that it's just great to actually apply those to our marriage throughout the course of our marriage, courtship.
I'm being sarcastic.
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, when I think about communication, I think about how important it is to really just talk about the things that are important to you and the things that are important to me. Because if we're not talking about the basic things that are keeping us up at night, or the things that are bothering us, the opportunities, if you will, then we're missing a chance to address the problem immediately. Stop.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, where if we're not talking about the things that are going on, like the surface details, the little things that are happening during the day, but then also making it a point to sometimes I could talk about all the deep stuff every night, which really excites him.
Usually at 11, 12, anywhere between.
That's
11
not
and
true.
12.
No, the magic window just seems to be like we're in bed and we've just like exhaled from the day.
Just turn the lights off.
Just turn the lights off. And then I'm like,
Head down on
so,
the pillow.
and then he'll just reach over and close my lips sometimes, which I absolutely don't like at all.
She loves it.
Yeah. So, but talking about the surface level things of like just making sure you've got the checkpoints of the things, the bullet points of things, the small things covered, just so you can show up well as a collective team, and then also making it a priority to talk about the things that are happening below the surface, whether it is things that are stressing you out, just weighing heavy on you, something maybe that the Lord's just like been stirring in your spirit that you're like, I need to bring my teammate in just to, even if it's just to pray with or for one another. Just finding that. Why you just keep looking? Do you have something to add? Something to share?
No, I'm enjoying listening to you. Go ahead. You're communicating so well.
So many words, but that is to me, that is when I feel like we are thriving, is when we are balancing those various types of communication of the checking the box stuff, but then also finding, even if it's just 5 minutes and moments of check-ins to just, hey, how are you? What's the Lord stirring in you? Or just making the priority. And the other thing I would say is sometimes for the communication, sometimes we just put our phones to the side, technology, and we just say, can I have a few minutes of no distractions? And I'm always amazed how much we can cover in that.
So I think people in marriage, and especially with kids, have a tendency to only talk about their kids. With our kids, there's a lot to unpackage as parents, because we're still learning how to be parents. We have different ages to navigate with different emotions at any given point. And that is something super important for us to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
The other side of it, though, is talking about things that are not happening, not talking about the kids, not talking about just what's going on in the marriage, just what happened during the course of your day, but talking about the things that are really burning inside of you, those challenges, those dreams that the Lord is stirring in you. Those are the things that keeps those dreams alive. And also it keeps you focused on what's happening forward and not just what's happening in the fight, or what you're actually in the trenches doing right now.
Yeah. And to that point, to when you do communicate about some of those things that are just below surface level, you're giving a moment to be vulnerable and inviting your teammate, which is the term that we use often, just in regards to each other, is you give an invitation and an opportunity for them to step into that with you, which is going to piggyback into the next tool that we're going to give, but that's not today. So that's tool tip number one, is just communication and finding ways and opportunities. And maybe finding is actually the wrong word, because we don't ever find 20, 30 minutes of extra time just to connect. It never magically appears. Maybe it did when we were dating. But
you really have to make
you
time.
have to make the time. And it sounds ridiculous, but sometimes we've even sent each other calendar invites. I've sent him an email at work to say, hey, I would just really love to connect tonight. Can we just have, 10, 15 minutes?
I really enjoy getting those emails too. I do. It
it brightens his day.
We talked about this early on in our marriage, expectation management. And so when I know there's a conversation to be had in advance, I have the ability now to prepare my mind and really think about in advance how I'm going to respond to this.
And you probably conserve your words throughout the day, because you're like, well, great, I'm gonna have to.
I definitely talk a lot less.
I'm so sure.
Being required to wear a mask at work, it definitely helps too, because for obvious reasons.
But making the time with your spouse. So the checklist stuff that's going to happen, because that is the norm of the day, but making the time to connect with your spouse, to share the things that the Lord is stirring in you, the things that you're navigating, and whatever it is. And just to celebrate, even if you connect 5 more minutes and you share something maybe new, or you guys feel like you connect and communicate maybe in a new way, or just, those are all good things to celebrate. And so even those baby steps, a small step forward, is worth celebrating in communication.
Okay, so how would you address people's concerns when they say, at the end of the night, I am just too tired to talk and I just want to go to bed, turn the light off, and go to sleep?
Yeah, it's a good question. That's our reality every day. Even recording these videos, we were both tired. We were both just like, I could absolutely, I could.
Had a rough day. I mean,
yes,
let's be honest. You chase the kids around.
Yes.
I chase the kids around.
It's just been, we're recording this over a holiday weekend. And so anyway, there's a different dynamic, but it's fine. It is. So the normal thing, but you get to the end of your day. And if you have expelled all of your words, if you have had a full day, if you have a busy day coming up, there are always going to be good excuses. But what you invest in and what you make time for is what is going to grow. And so at some point, I think you have to have even a tough conversation with yourself. And this is what it looks like sometimes for me. Maybe I don't want to speak for you, but sometimes he'll be like downstairs in the basement after the kids have gone to bed, and he's just like decompressing, and I just would be like, I just want to go to bed. But I should go downstairs and just spend quality time with my husband. And even if it's 5 minutes, that is going to mean more to him than if I just went upstairs right now. So just making the effort and just showing up with my presence, with whatever I have, even if it's just 5 minutes, I'm taking a step to engage my husband. I'm taking a step to show up. I may still be tired, and that's a fair reason, but I have that reason. I have that feeling every day. And sometimes I do just text him and say, I'm super tired. I'm going to go to bed. And that's where you just have to assess, I think, where you're at, where your season of marriage is. And so that would be what I would say.
Absolutely. But the important aspect of that is being able to talk about your expectations for that too. Because, for instance, if you didn't know that just a few minutes to come down and meet me where I'm at would mean something, if we hadn't talked about that and communicated that, you would have not maybe necessarily known that there was value in that for me.
Right.
Where after me decompressing from a long day, and being able to just have a few moments to reset after we get the kids down.
Yeah.
You know that there is a time after that we have a window before we both
Yeah.
just crash.
Yeah, we're
after a
done.
long day.
We're done. And
For us to
nothing
really talk.
life-giving is probably going to come after a certain time window where you're like, I can't show up well to this and you can't show up well to this. So even in that, that's a great point for the communication to assess, hey, where am I tonight? Like mentally, emotionally, physically, am I able to show up well to this conversation, and letting your person know, sometimes like, this is where I'm at, or, hey, this is really important to me for us to talk about this, or I know you really want to connect around this. Are we able to do this tomorrow?
Yep.
And just kind
that
of
happens often in bed when we're about to turn the light off. Sometimes
that's like his
It's a
tagline.
communication.
If he had an away message that he just sent to me, it would be like, this is really important to me, and I really want to hear what you have to say, but I'm really tired and I'm about to pass out. Can we talk about this tomorrow?
Does
So-
it? But the flip side
It's
of
fair.
that is
It's
it's
fair.
okay if the answer is yes, but it's also an honest assessment of that moment. Say, hey, is this really for us?
Yeah.
Or is this for you, something that we need to address right now in this moment to make sure we go to bed well?
Yeah.
So we don't take it into tomorrow.
Yeah. And you won't know if you and your spouse, or maybe you and your fiance or the person you're dating, like whatever, if you feel like communication is a gap of opportunity, and we could all get better at communication, but the best thing that I could encourage you to do is show up, make the effort, make the time, mark it on your calendar, and just start trying different ways to communicate and engage, because you're not going to know, like what Chris said, I wouldn't know that those 5 minutes to come down and just sit with him, to decompress alongside of him, means so much to him. If I didn't try that, if I didn't know that, if he didn't communicate those expectations, he wouldn't know that him telling me what you have to say is really important to me, but I'm really tired. Just that opening line, while I know what it means, still him making the effort when he's exhausted to say, what you're saying is really important to me. Can we talk about this tomorrow? It still is like, well, I would have liked to have talked about it now, but that's fair. It's midnight. It's understandable. Like,
Okay, so
it's
how
fair.
about?
So I'm just saying
I agree. It's a great technique. What I was going to offer though too is, remember the tool we talked about early on in our marriage on the
nothing
weekends?
between. Oh no, I don't know.
That one's a good one too.
Oh, what's
But-
this one? Oh, I don't even know.
Okay, well, we'll finish with the first one, which was, what is it? Nothing counts between
Yeah. So when we
midnight
got,
and 4 a.m.
yeah. So when we got married, one of my coworkers, a pastor at the church I was on staff at, said, I'm going to give you a tip that's going to save your marriage. So this is like bonus tip in this. Tip number one, man, we are coming out of the gates. Well, he said nothing between the hours of, I think it was midnight and 4 a.m. counts.
5 a.m.
Okay.
I said 4 a.m. just now, but I think it was
Okay.
5 a.m. because most of
Well, that's
us
what he said. Most
outside of the
people,
military don't get up at 4 a.m.
sure. Okay. So nothing between the hours of like midnight and 5 a.m. count, being that people say things when they're tired, when they're half asleep. And some of those things don't need to be unpackaged the next day. You just
True.
have to write it off to say, and sometimes they do. So I'm not saying like, but they're like, some people just don't wake up well in the middle of the night if you need to wake them up for things. And they could respond in ways that could absolutely need to send you to marriage counseling. If you don't look at it through the lens of, okay, it's 2 a.m. We just went to bed 2.5 hours ago. They don't like waking up like in the middle of their sleep. They need lots of sleep. I know he still loves me and it's okay. And so we don't talk about those things. And sometimes we do have to still, unpack things, but yeah. So
The other thing that we learned early on in our marriage, living in Belton, Texas, was expectations for the weekend, communicating what things needed to be done on the weekend. Would you like to start what got us down this path of learning this very early on in our marriage.
Yeah. So I would go into the weekend with different expectations than he would.
Of expectations.
And I went into the weekend thinking like, we're going to accomplish so much. And
A
I
lot.
would build a list of like
A lot of
15
things.
different things of like, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And he had the expectation going into the weekend that we're going to just decompress and rest and reset. Neither are bad, but
Or go explore somewhere else, or go.
yeah, yes.
I mean,
and I'm like,
there are a variety of things, but there wasn't necessarily a checklist.
every week, every weekend, it worked. It happened like clockwork. We would get in a massive disagreement. We would be frustrated to the point that we wouldn't even want to spend any time with each other. And we would end up feeling like we had wasted our weekends. And so finally, it was really great. And it just kind of swept me off my feet. But Chris, one weekend was like, I am not arguing with you. We are all done with this. We're not going to argue about our weekends anymore. And we're not going to ruin our weekends. This is what we're going to do. You can have your little list. I will do 3 things off the list. You can pick the 3 things, and that is all what we're going to do from your list. And then we will go explore, and we will have rest, and we will reset. And I was like, but all right, that's fair. And that was it. And so sometimes like we still, and what's great is like, this is also going to tie into one of our other tips. Again, that's going to come probably later this week. But just really appreciating the differences of each other, because I will outwork like anybody. And it's not necessarily always from a healthy place. And he is really a great balance to draw me back to say, we need to rest. Like, we just need to reset. We need to go have fun. And I'm like,
but we will both work hard.
I mean,
so let's just be straight there.
You
and I both work extremely hard, but we're a nice balance, because you will not stop. Like,
yeah, that's why I said it's not from a healthy place.
Yeah,
you have a great healthy balance. Chris is a very hard worker, and I'm very thankful. All right. Anything else for communication?
I don't know. What would you like to communicate about? What else?
If you have any questions, anything at all, do not hesitate to reach out to us. Again, we're not the experts, but we really are passionate about creating a dialogue and a space for couples to talk about marriage, because healthy marriages and creating marriages that you love is just the best thing. So thank you guys for joining us for tip number 1, and we can't wait to share what's next.